All right, get ready for this one, folks, because today we're diving deep into a murder case out in Hawaii.
Yeah, gonna be a wild one.
We got this podcast episode someone sent in,
Uh-huh.
and it lays out the whole thing, but what really got us was how much social media was, baked into the investigation.
Yeah, it's a good one.
So we're going to try to untangle not just the crime itself, but, what it means for these online communities to be getting involved like this, you know?
Definitely. I think this one really shows how fast information can get around online these days
Right.
and how that throws some curveballs at law enforcement,
That's
for
right.
sure.
For sure.
We'll see how that all went down, with the good and the bad.
Absolutely. So let's start with Thelma Boville.
Right.
So she was a 51-year-old school teacher living in Hawaii
Okay.
with her partner and their little girl.
Mm-hmm.
And she also cleaned vacation rentals to make a little extra cash.
Yeah.
And that's where things take a really dark turn.
Picture this, like a beautiful vacation rental right on the beach, all set for the next guests. Telma's just doing a final check before they get there, leaving her 8-year-old daughter waiting in the truck.
Oh, wow.
But when those guests walk in,
Uh-oh.
they find
Oh, no.
a horrific scene.
Oh, God.
Thelma's body.
That is just awful. I hate even thinking about that.
I know, it's the kind of thing that just gives you chills,
Definitely.
They found her bound with multiple stab wounds.
Gosh.
The level of violence was just insane.
Oh, man.
The police found knives, a bat, a hammer, even a meat tenderizer, and a machete.
Wow, they really used everything.
At the scene.
Just terrible,
This
Ben.
was way beyond your typical burglary gone wrong,
Right, and then on top of all of that, the police find Thelma's daughter upstairs.
Oh my gosh.
She'd been tied up too, but thankfully she was unharmed.
Okay.
But the trauma, can you imagine?
No, I can't even begin to imagine what that poor girl went through.
Her words, "They killed my mom," just sent shockwaves through the whole island
Yeah, I bet.
and kicked off this massive search for the killers. And this is where social media comes in.
Yeah, here we go.
So Thelma's partner and his family, they turned to Facebook to get the word out,
Smart.
trying to find whoever did this.
Right.
They posted this video offering a $100,000 reward,
Wow.
and they even included the daughter's description of the attackers in the video. Now, that video, that went viral fast,
I bet.
shared by tons of people,
Yeah.
even famous surfers like Kelly Slater.
Oh, wow.
The reach of that message was just incredible.
Yeah, but with that reach, you lose some control over how the story's told,
You do, for sure.
It's a trade-off.
Okay, so then comes the dying video.
Oh, yeah, this part.
So just 2 weeks before the murder, these two young people who fit the daughter's description, they posted this video calling it their dying video.
Oh, my God.
It really makes you think about what was going on in their heads at the time,
Absolutely. Like, was that a cry for help? A warning that everyone missed?
Yeah.
It's scary how we figure out what's a joke and what's real online these days,
It really is. So after that video started getting shared,
Yeah?
tips started pouring in within hours.
Wow.
And that led to them figuring out who the suspects were.
Okay, so who are they?
23-year-old Stephen Brown and 20-year-old Haley Danderin.
Okay.
Think about how powerful that is,
It's wild, right?
The whole online community coming together, two teenagers who saw them at the mall, they recognized them from the social media posts,
Yeah.
and another person saw them getting out of Thelma's stolen truck.
Okay.
All these little details that could easily get lost,
Right.
they just blew up online.
And that was it.
It's crazy how fast things can happen in the age of social media, right?
For sure.
What started as a routine house check for Thelma
Yeah.
turns into a murder investigation, and they've already made arrests in a matter of hours.
I know. It's wild to think about.
It really is.
And that's a huge challenge for law enforcement, too.
Right.
Sure, those tips were great for catching the suspects.
Yeah.
But imagine if the wrong info had gotten out there.
Oh, God.
The whole thing could have gone sideways.
Yeah.
It shows how important it is to be careful what we share online
Absolutely.
and how the police have to keep up with all this new stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't forget that behind all of that online chatter,
Right.
there's an actual investigation going on.
Yeah.
They got to follow the rules.
Mm-hmm.
So how did they handle all this new information and
Well-
all the pressure coming from the public?
Good question. Oh, yeah. They had to walk a fine line, for sure.
Yeah.
They had to use all that good info
Yeah.
coming from online,
Mm,
But they also couldn't let things get out of control.
right.
They had to make sure they didn't mess up the case.
Yeah. So how did they finally arrest them?
So once they knew who they were looking for
Yeah.
and where they were,
Right.
thanks to all those online tips,
Mm-hmm.
the police moved in fast.
Okay.
They surrounded that shopping center where Brown and Danderen were spotted.
Right.
Brown tried to run, but the officers tackled him pretty quick.
Okay.
Danderen, on the other hand, just seemed to give up.
Oh, wow.
Her words were chilling. She said, "Just pull out your gun and shoot me in the head.
Oh, my goodness.
My life is over."
Wow. Talk about a chilling statement.
Right.
So that pretty much sealed the deal for them, right?
Oh, yeah, that plus all the other evidence.
Right.
I mean, there was blood on their clothes.
Yeah.
Plus what Danderen said and all those people who saw them.
Right.
It's pretty clear what happened.
And then there was that thing about Brown trying to lick the blood off his hands.
Oh, yeah, like he was trying to get rid of the evidence.
I know. That's just disturbing.
It really makes you wonder what was going through his mind.
Absolutely. Like panic, maybe?
Yeah, trying to get away with it.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway.
What about the trial?
Okay, so...
I heard it got delayed.
Yeah, it got put off for 6 years.
6 years. Wow. Why so long?
Well, part of it was the pandemic.
Oh, right.
And part of it was just how complicated the case was, you know. Imagine how Thelma's family must have felt.
I can't even imagine.
Waiting that long for justice.
It's just awful.
I know, it's heartbreaking.
So what happened when the trials finally started?
Okay, so they tried Brown and Danderen separately.
Okay.
And they both tried to blame each other.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like each one was saying the other was the mastermind.
Wow, classic blame game.
It really was.
But didn't they worry the jury would believe them?
Well, there's always that risk.
Right.
Especially when there's no one who actually saw the crime happen.
Yeah.
But in this case, the prosecution did a really good job.
Okay.
They laid out all the evidence really carefully. They pointed out all the lies in Brown and Danderen's stories.
Right.
And they used forensic science to back up their version of what happened.
Okay, so they really had their ducks in a row.
Yeah, they did.
So I heard Thelma's daughter was a key witness.
She was.
That must have been so hard for her, though.
I know. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Having to go through all of that again.
It's just awful.
She was only 8 when it happened.
Right.
But she gave this incredibly accurate description of the suspects.
Yeah.
And that was what helped them catch them in the first place.
Wow. That's amazing.
But then 6 years later, she had to describe it all again.
Twice.
For both trials.
Oh, God.
It was heartbreaking, but she was so brave.
I bet. What did she say?
Well, she talked about being taken from the truck and brought inside the house.
Oh, gosh.
She didn't actually see the murder.
Okay.
But she remembers Brown saying, "We killed your mom," when they were pulling her out of the truck.
Oh, my gosh.
Hearing a child talk about something like that,
Yeah.
it must have been just devastating for everyone in the courtroom.
I can only imagine.
It really showed the human cost of this crime.
Yeah.
You know, the impact it had on everyone.
For sure. So after waiting 6 years
Yeah.
and going through those emotional trials,
Yeah.
what was the verdict?
Well, the jury saw through their lies. Good. Brown and Danderen were both found guilty
Okay.
on all charges.
Wow, that's a relief.
Murder, kidnapping, burglary, the whole 9 yards.
Good.
The judge really laid down the hammer, too. He said they were incredibly violent
Yeah.
and that they could have just run away,
Mm.
but they didn't.
No.
So Brown got life in prison with the possibility of parole,
Okay.
plus 20 years,
Wow.
and Danderen got 2 life sentences,
Okay.
also with the possibility of parole.
Okay, so there's a chance they could get out someday.
Yeah, but it's not likely,
Well, good.
given what they did.
But even with the guilty verdict, we
Yeah.
still don't know why they did it.
That's the big question.
Right, like why all that violence during a burglary?
I know, it just doesn't make sense.
Do they ever explain themselves?
Sadly, no.
Really?
Nope, they never gave a clear motive for their actions.
Wow, so they just took that to the grave with them?
Pretty much. It's like another layer of tragedy on top of everything else.
It really is.
Like, even with a guilty verdict, there's still so many unanswered questions.
It's true, you never really get closure.
No, you don't.
Makes you wonder what goes on in people's minds.
It really does. It's scary.
So let's talk about social media again.
Okay.
Looking back, do you think it was a good thing or a bad thing that it was involved in this case?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
I mean, on the one hand, it helped catch the bad guys really fast.
Yeah.
All that info spreading around online,
Mm-hmm.
all those tips from people,
Yeah.
and that dying video,
Right.
it all helped wrap up the investigation quickly.
Right.
Who knows how long it would have taken without all that.
True.
But on the other hand,
Right.
you've got all that misinformation floating around.
Oh, gosh.
People could have taken the law into their own hands.
Yeah, it could have been a disaster.
It could have ruined the whole case.
Yeah, it's like you said before.
Yeah.
It's a tightrope walk.
Exactly.
You got to use the power of social media for good.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to be careful not to let it get out of control That's the hard part.
It really is. This case shows how important it is for all of us to be more careful online.
To think before we share.
Exactly.
Yeah, it really shows you the two sides of social media, right?
For sure.
It can be such a force for good,
Yeah,
but it can also create so much chaos.
absolutely.
It's scary to think how much power we all have online, you know?
It really is. I mean, this case makes you wonder, could this whole thing have been prevented?
Oh, wow.
What if someone had seen that dying video and thought, maybe this is a red flag?
Right.
What if they'd gone to the police?
It's a chilling thought.
I know, right?
Like, we see so much stuff online, especially
Yeah.
things that are, like, out there or creepy.
Right? But what if we ignore those things and someone gets hurt?
Yeah, that's a heavy question.
It is. It's something we all got to think about,
It really is.
Where's the line between free speech
Yeah,
and, doing the right thing when you see something bad online?
right. It's a tough one.
There's no easy answer.
Definitely not. So, like, are we supposed to report every dark joke?
Right.
Every weird comment we see?
Exactly. You don't want to turn the internet into a police state,
Right. Nobody wants that.
But we also can't just ignore warning signs.
Especially when it comes to violence.
Yeah, this case shows us that the internet isn't just some game.
Yeah.
Like, what you do online can have real-world consequences.
Sometimes I forget that.
It's easy to forget.
Yeah, it really is.
But we got to remember that there are real people behind those screens,
You're right. Real people with real feelings.
Yeah, and sometimes those people get hurt because of what happens online.
It's true. And that brings us back to Thelma.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the details of the investigation and the trial,
Yeah.
But we can't forget about her.
She was a real person.
A teacher, a mom, someone who was loved.
Yeah, and her life was cut way too short.
Senselessly.
It's just not right.
It's not. And it reminds us that this isn't just some story,
It's more than that.
Yeah, it's a real person's life.
Yeah.
A family that was destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
A whole community that's hurting.
And you know what's amazing?
What's that?
Thelma's family.
Yeah.
They've taken all that grief
Yeah.
and they're trying to make something good come out of it.
Wow.
They're fighting for tougher laws against violent crime in Hawaii.
That's incredible.
They even set up a memorial for her
Oh, wow.
to keep her memory alive.
It's really inspiring to see how they're turning their pain into something positive.
It really is. They're amazing people.
This has been a wild ride.
Tell me about it.
I mean, we've talked about a brutal murder,
Yeah.
the crazy way social media was involved,
Yeah.
and how it's all affected so many people.
It's a case that sticks with you.
It really does.
I think the biggest thing I've learned from all this is that we got to appreciate what we have.
Yeah,
Life is precious,
it really is.
and we should all try to leave the world a better place than we found it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been great chatting with you.
We'll be back soon with another case to explore, but until then, stay curious, stay informed,
Yeah.
and most importantly, stay compassionate.
Couldn't agree more.